Hi everyone and welcome back. This is Priya with Blue Water Immigration. Now, a few months ago, I made a video on how to change your status from a closed work permit to an open work permit inside Canada. And that particular video garnered a lot of interest, a lot of attention. A lot of people asked a lot of questions. And I did respond to all of them on YouTube, but I thought it's a great idea for me to pick some of those questions and give more detailed answers in the form of a video, hoping that it would reach a wider audience to help you. Now, this is going to be the first video of a series of videos that I plan to make, sort of taking questions from that particular video and a few other videos as well, which I think the questions are very interesting. I'm going to provide my answers and hopefully it'll help you out. And let's get started without any further ado. So the first question for today is someone's asking, I have been working with a company for more than a year on PGWP. If my company supports me on LMIA, do I have to first apply for a closed work permit based on the LMIA and create a new express entry profile to claim the points? Or can I include the LMIA on the existing express entry profile with open work permit? Now, a lot of people get confused with this, so I'm going to make it very clear. These are two different things. You can continue to work with this employer on your postgraduate work permit, and if your employer is supporting you for your PR application and applies for the LMIA and gets that approved, that in itself is enough for you to claim extra points on your express entry profile. So you don't have to go ahead and apply for another closed work permit to get the points on your express entry profile. And it can be on the existing EE profile. It doesn't have to be a new express entry profile. So you don't change anything. The LMIA approved that you got, you just add that to your express entry profile and you automatically get the 50 or 200 additional points. The reason why you would go ahead and apply for a closed work permit is if your PGWP is sort of coming to an end. It's going to say expire in the next, couple of months, 2 months, 3 months, then you may want to consider applying for a closed work permit because you do realize you cannot extend your PGWP. That public policy is no longer in existence. When they temporarily allowed people to, extend their PGWPs, but now when your PGWP ends, it ends and that's it. There is no more public policy allowing people to extend. So the only way to stay here is to apply for that LMIA. Your employer is assisting you with your PR application and going ahead and applying for a closed work permit. If your PGWP is valid for a long time, say you got a 3-year PGWP or a 2-year PGWP or whatever that is, sorry, not 3-year, 2-year PGWP, then you don't have to consider applying for the closed work permit if you are in the early stages of the game. So it all depends on where you're at, but you definitely don't need to create a new profile. This LMIA alone will get you the points, and applying for a closed work permit or not depends on your situation, depends on when your PGWP expires. Hope that helps. This next question is quite long, so I will try to summarize. It's really a question from this Peruvian national who's right now in Canada working for an employer on her PGWP status for the past 4 months. Now, the employer has applied for a closed work permit for her because she's a Peruvian national. She's LMIA exempt, so that's not needed. She just is now changing from an open work permit to a closed work permit. And she wants to understand if the experience she gained while working with the same employer on PGWP, will that experience be considered when she applies for PR? And the answer is absolutely. So she was on PGWP, she worked for the 4 months, she then went on to the closed work permit, she's still with the same employer. So by September 2024 of this year, she would have completed the full 1 year if her 4 months of PGWP is considered as Canadian work experience for the PR program under the CEC class, and the answer is definitely it will be considered. Now, this client is asking, according to latest rules of 2023 regarding LMIA-based closed work permit, am I allowed to study part-time or able to do some course part-time? Now, there was a public policy that came out. So if your work permit was issued to you on or before June 7, 2023, then you come under the public policy and you're able to sort of go ahead and do a program of study without a study permit. So it's either you applied for your work permit or you were issued a work permit on or before June 7, 2023, or you would have applied for an extension of your current work permit. That is, you're in Canada already on an LMIA-based work permit and you applied for an extension. And typically, after you apply for an extension, they send you a letter saying you're eligible to work for a specified period of time until they process your application. Now, that letter, you should have received it on or before June 7, 2023. And in that case, you are definitely eligible to go ahead and study. Now, you have to remember that your study, the period of study can only be up until the validity of your work permit. So if your work permit is expiring, say, on December 3rd, 2024, you are not able to pick a program that ends, say, in January or February of 2025. So it has to end on or before the validity of the expiry of your work permit. That's one thing. Or the program of study has to definitely be over before the public policy expires. Now, the public policy expires on June 27, 2026. So there is still some time to go for that. But just remember that it's either the expiry on your work permit, or if you have your work permit that goes up until 2027 and all that, then you're looking at the public policy expiry date, which is June 27, 2026. And in that case, you can definitely study without a study permit. The next question is, this person is asking, I have a closed work permit, but planning to move to another location, but with the same employer and company. So what should I do in this case? How to change the work location? So this, you have to apply for a change of conditions on your work permit, which is IMM 5710. That is the form number. So you have to get a letter from your employer stating that your location is changing, and you have to complete that form and submit to make sure that the location is changed on your work permit. Please do not continue to work, especially if there is a location that is mentioned in your work permit. Do not just continue to work in a different location without letting IRCC know, without completing this form, which is IMM 5710. So this client is asking, after how long working on a closed work permit can we apply for PR program? Is the time limit specified for 1 year, or it can be applied even before 1 year? Now, this question really depends on whether you are on an LMIA exempt work permit or your work permit is received after an LMIA approval. Because if you're on an LMIA exempt work permit, for example, you're here on an intra-company transfer, in that case, you will definitely have to complete the full 12 months of working with that employer before you can apply for PR, okay? But if you are on an LMIA approved work permit, then it depends, right? Because you may qualify for PR even without the 1 full year of work experience, in which case you can apply under the CEC class. But looking at how the CRS scores are today, and looking at the competition to get into the to get picked to receive an ITA from the government, the scores are so high. It's like 535 something, I think, the last I checked. So you really need to have at least 2 or 3 years of experience before you can qualify for PR. So yes, you may get the 50 additional points, but even with that 50 additional points or 200 additional points, you may still not qualify for PR unless you have 2 or 3 years of work experience. Unless you are looking at some PNP programs, and I don't want to get into that. But my short answer to this question without knowing the specifics is, it really depends on whether your work permit is LMIA exempt or LMIA approved, and depending on which province you're in, and so on and so forth. So you may have to reach out to us for me to give you a more clear understanding, because I can't really, for answering this question, I can't go by province right now. But in a nutshell, I hope I answered your question. So the next question is, this person is asking, if someone moves from a closed work permit to an open work permit due to work abuse, do the hours getting on this open work permit still be counted for express entry? And the answer is yes. But first of all, sorry to hear that you had to go through abuse with your employer. But if you had to change to an open work permit, absolutely your hours worked under the open work permit now will be considered towards your express entry profile. So this question is from a mother who's asking to see if her son's study permit can be made amendments to, because right now he's only allowed to study in secondary schools and he's not allowed to work outside of the campus. Now, I'd like to say that secondary school students are not allowed to work outside of the campus. Those on a study permit only allows them to study inside the school. But if you really are looking for working outside the campus, then it can be done only after he finishes his grade 12, enrolls into a DLI, which is a designated learning institution, and then he'll be allowed to work outside campus. But for now, he has to just stay put and complete his grade 12 and not worry about or not think about working outside. So the last question here is to deal with abusive employers, which is quite important. So this client sent me a message saying, I came to Canada last month, my employer has taken my passport, my work permit, my SIN number, and he didn't even have any contract agreement. Now he's only willing to pay less than what is already mentioned in the contract agreement. I'm very tensed, I don't know what to do, please suggest. Now, the minute all of these things are happening, your employer, first of all, cannot be confiscating your passport and stuff, right? So that in itself is not legal to do, not ethical to do, not legal to do. So if you are stuck with an employer and you're on a closed work permit and your employer is doing these kind of things, right? They are terminating you without notice and they are paying you less than what was promised. They are confiscating your passport and your SIN number and all of that. Then you are eligible to apply for for an open work permit for vulnerable workers. So I'm going to leave in the description below a link that you can click on and you can just literally follow the instructions to apply for this open work permit. They are processing these open work permits on a priority basis. So I would not waste any further time and I would not really go to anybody don't pay anybody any money to get this done. You can do it on your own. It's very simple to follow these instructions. Unless English is not your first language, you may want to get somebody's help to do it for you. And I'm basically doing it to help people because so many people contact me and I feel very sorry for them. Not just themselves, they are here with their kids. So I'll also leave my email address in the description below. So if you have any questions, you're stuck somewhere, feel free to reach out to me and I'll try my very best to get back to you as fast as possible. Also, leave it in the comments below. So I always look at videos and I always respond to comments on videos. So do that and I'll be able to help. So hopefully this video was helpful to a certain extent. I do have so many more comments and so many more questions that I have to respond to. So I'm going to be making a series of videos, like I said, that answers all of these questions. So hopefully people watching it, it sort of strikes a chord somewhere and helps, make you feel unstuck in some ways. And I wish you good luck with everything.